Today is Saturday, the 14th of May, 2022, and we are all gathered here for the 32nd session on mindfulness for beginners in English. And on behalf of all organizers and attendees, I would like to warmly welcome Venerable Bhante Omagama Dhamma Kusala Thero to today's session. And also on behalf of all the organizers, I would like to welcome all the attendees who are participating in this session through Zoom and the live stream going on Facebook for the first time today, commencing today. And this is a session which is having the objective of passing on the message of mindfulness. We will conduct the session for about 1.5 hours. And as the first step in the session, I would like to invite Venerable Bhante to commence with the in-session mindfulness practice scheduled for today. And for that, I would like to invite all the participants to bring a pen to be dismantled mindfully during this practice session spanning for about 15 minutes with Venerable Bhante's guidance. So I will give all of you about 2-3 minutes to go ahead and find a pen that you would feel like dismantling as practice of mindful activity to start things off for today. It will need to be a ballpoint pen, as Bhante has reminded to me. So we will give you about 2 minutes or 3 minutes. If you can raise a Zoom hand when you are ready with the ballpoint pen, then we can start. I myself have the pen ready. Yes, I think there are about 10 hands going up on Zoom. So I think all of us are ready with the ballpoint pen. So I will hand over to Bhante for the conducting of the mindful session on this particular practice for today. Over to you, Bhante. Thank you.
Namanta, can you hear me?
Yes, Bhante, I can hear you.
Sorry, we are having trouble with the electricity today, so I can't turn on the video. But we will go ahead with the activity. So we invite all of you to participate in the activity. This is something that interactive activity, which is somewhat related to mindfulness, as well as the practice that we are doing. So if you can turn on the video, if you are willing, you are invited to do that. And you should have a pen with you, right? So let's just take few minutes, few seconds to investigate what we have in our hand with mindfulness. Try to see how it feels, how the surface is like, what's the texture of the surface. Just take few minutes to observe that. So I do have a pen with me. I hope it's not clear. Now, when we observe this object, we can see the color of it. And we can see the texture, the surface. And when we touch, we can see different parts and how they feel against our palm and fingers. Anybody would like to comment on what they notice?
Bhante, Avasarai, this is Anupama here.
Yes, Anupama, go ahead.
I hope you can hear me, yes. So I've got this pen in my hand. The first thing I did was actually feel it with my fingers. Of course, I was observing it with my eyes as well. Talking about the sensation when I touched it, there were smooth parts to it, and also a certain kind of ridged, almost corrugated end to one end of the barrel. I could also feel the shape, kind of it is not quite cylindrical, but kind of like ridged. Probably describe it like a pentagon shape almost, the cross section. And towards the end, I could feel the tapering, both ends. One end where the tip is more kind of acute tapering. So that is how I probably would describe the sensation. When I look at the pen, it's a see-through barrel in the middle section. The ends are actually opaque, black, and I can see a silver tip, the nib of the pen. I think yes, that's probably my description of the pen I'm holding.
Okay, so good observations. When you notice various things, it is good that you are observing something mindfully, and you can, especially the touch, the sensation of touch, we can feel different parts, how the tapering is there, how the shape and different textures, all this we feel. In addition, of course, we see with our eyes, and that's another way that we verify an object. Okay, anybody else? Okay, now let's move forward to the next part. Now, can you see a part that can be, okay, before that, now when we see this object, what is the name that we give, right? We call it a pen, right? That's how we describe this object. That's how we label, name it. Now, is there a part that can be easily removed? Yes. Now, if we remove that part, let's see how we feel, how the pressure is applied to remove that, whether there is a sound when we remove that part. Okay, who would like to describe what you noticed when you remove it?
Avasarai Bante, it's Anupama again. So initially I could feel a resistance when trying to remove it. So I had to apply a bit more extra force. But once I got over that resistance, it easily came off. In terms of sounds, I couldn't particularly hear anything. It may be because I'm wearing my headphones, but I took the piece that I removed and placed it on the desk in front of me. Then I could hear the sound of it contacting the desk.
Okay, right. What I noticed was that it made a sound when I remove it, and I felt that I used the fingertip to apply the pressure to remove the clip of the pen. Now we have two parts with us, right? Now, how do you label them? What are the names that you call them?
The front of the pen and the back of the pen, Bante.
Okay. Anybody else? Bandula, yes. I think you can unmute and answer. Panchali?
We can't really call it a pen when the spring is to... How can you really call it a pen when you can't write with it?
Okay, now you are saying that labeling is not applicable. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. We might have different various shapes, there are different pens with us. So the one I am having, when I remove the clip, still I am able to.
Bante, we are unable to hear you at this moment. Maybe Bante's internet connection has become a bit weak. We will wait mindfully.
Namanta?
Yes, Bante, now we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, we are having some trouble this side. Now I have two parts with me. Do you think you can separate it into more pieces? Maybe by rotating, you can remove the tip of the pen. Try and see what you can do.
Sorry, Bante. This is Chamari. My pen is in 7 pieces now. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 7 pieces. But I can pick up the bits, the nib that is connected to the ink as one piece. So everything else is just different pieces. I'm not going to call them pen, but I can still pick up this cylindrical inside bit, which is connected to the nib. So I can actually still write with it. So I might still call that bit the pen and the rest of it pieces.
My pen is a bit stubborn. I couldn't do anything with it.
Namanta, can you hear Bante? Or I think we may have lost him again.
Yes, I think there will be some intermittent, probably. We will wait.
Yeah, I think Bante has dropped out, so he might join again.
Apologies on this issue because of the ongoing electricity related problems we are experiencing in Sri Lanka. There may be some delays here and there. You can practice mindful sitting in this moment of time until we see Bante arriving back into the session, which should happen soon. Until Bante returns to the session, please practice mindful sitting, and I will mute myself, and we will see how it goes in the next 10 minutes. Until that time, let us all go into a mindful sitting session until Bante is returning to the session. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes, Bante, I can hear you. The voice seems very faint and a little bit disturbed, but it is fine. We can hear Bante. Since the time Bante left the session, I asked everyone to go into a session of mindful sitting. So over to Bante now. Can you hear me, Bante? Okay. Sorry for the disturbances. Having power as well as some network problems. Yes, I think Bante is having a hard time joining into the session. Until we gain consistency in Bante's internet connection, you may go into a mindful sitting, observe your thoughts and observe your mind until we get this sorted. So bear with us for the slight inconvenience here, but this is again mindful practice for everyone. So please stay with the session. Thank you. Namanta, I think you can hear me now. Yes, Bante, we can hear you now. I think we can commence the session proceedings. Okay, everyone is in a, one moment, Bante. Everyone is in a mindful sitting session after Bante left. Just to let Bante know. Thank you. Okay, thank you for guiding them towards that. I think this is nature's way of telling us not to do the activity today. We will postpone the activity which is related to the pen. We will do it later. Since you guys have done a sitting session, I think we can go forward to the next part, which is the Q&A, I guess. Thank you, Bante. Now, I appreciate everyone's patience in this moment with these internet issues. I would like to invite Lushani to present the 2 reports received for today's session and also to conduct the question and answer session throughout. Over to you, Lushani. Thank you.
Thank you, Namanta. Avasarai Bante. So as Namanta mentioned, there are 2 reports. I will read the first report. Sitting meditation, meditation object breath, duration 30 minutes. Sat on the cushion and adjusted the posture to a comfortable position. Noted the feeling in the left foot as a throbbing sensation. Right foot also had similar sensation, but the intensity was lower. Did a quick body scan starting from soles of the feet to top of the head. Felt the warmth of the right palm resting on left. Notice that the spine felt too tight and allowed it to relax a bit without drooping. Facial muscles relaxed towards the end of the body scan. Breath was noted soon after. Noted the difference in temperature between in and out breath. Also noted the difference of the length between the breaths, some medium, some short, and some few long breaths too. After a while, mind had wandered into the future planning, and on recognizing this, brought the attention back to the breath. There was no aversion in the mind for deviating from the meditation object. During the next few minutes, the mind altered between staying with the breath and being distracted with various other objects, mainly past and future. Once noticing that it had strayed away from the breath, attention returned to it. Couldn't feel the in-breath near the nostrils now, although knew that the breath was present. Just that no sensation could be felt near the nostrils. Then became aware of pain on the right shoulder. Attention was hovering over it. Wanted to return to noting the breath, but the mind lingered on the right shoulder. Noted the vibrations around that area as sharp one moment and much slower the next. Came out of the meditation after 30 minutes. Walking meditation, 20 minutes. Walked outside on a path of about 15 steps. Brought the attention to the lifting, moving, and placing of each leg. Also noted the cool temperature on the soles of the feet when each was lifted. Felt the shifting of body weight while placing right foot more prominently compared to that of placing the left foot. Sound of bird song noticed, after which the mind returned to walking. Noted how the forefoot is the last part to lift and heel is the first part of foot that is placed on the ground. Felt the sensation of cool breeze. Noted some ants on the path and avoided stepping on them. Soon after, the mind felt quite distracted, as focus was becoming looking for and avoiding stepping on ants, so the noting of lifting, moving, and placing of feet had taken second priority. Ended walking meditation after 20 minutes, although intention was to walk for about at least 30 minutes. Mindfulness during the day, 40 minutes. Weeding in the garden to prepare flower beds. Walked to the garden shed to take out the tools. Noted the movements of feet, altering the body weight on each leg. Walked back to the area for weeding. Picked the tool and noted the cool temperature of it in hand. Started digging the area and used hands to uproot some of the weed that came off easily. Use the tool to turn the soil before easing out the other more resistant weed that were difficult to lift. Noted slight aversion in the mind. It was due to the weed that were more difficult to uproot. Found the humor in that, having aversion towards plants a bit silly. Then the mind started to contemplate how similar it is to the effort needed to weed the mind off its unwholesome roots. Some unwholesome roots came off with a little effort, but there are many long-standing unhealthy habits in the mind that are so difficult to uproot. After a while, the attention returned to the weeding in the garden. Venerable Bhante, I would really appreciate your feedback on how to adjust and move forward with the meditation. Thero and Saranai. End of the report.
Okay, thank you for sharing the report. We have a lot of valuable information in there. So let me start with the latter part, which was weeding, uprooting the weeds in the garden, right? Now you have done the observation, you have done the activity with awareness, and you could see how this mind is reacting to these situations, how it is having aversion even towards these plants, right? You can see how it is getting stuck there, trying to have this feeling of anger towards plant, towards natural things. So this is how it works. This mind is deluded in certain ways that it wishes things to behave as it likes. You know, if the plants are coming easily, then this mind is happy. If you have to put a lot of effort, then you have aversion towards it. So this is how it works. So when you observe, you tend to notice them. So always we want to control things. We want to wish things to be as we want. Maybe having born into this body, you want to keep it in the Middle Ages. You don't want to grow old. You don't like aging. So this is also the same. When you see gray hair, you have aversion towards it. When you see that your teeth is becoming more and more troubled, you have aversion towards it. When you get aches, pains in your body joints, you have aversion towards it. This natural process is there, but you don't want to accept it. Instead, you want to have your way. This mind wants to have its way. So when we practice mindfulness, we observe things. And you find humor in your own reactions. Even this mind is struggling with the plant. You are trying to walk somewhere and suddenly you hit something and you get pain. And next moment you have aversion towards that object, maybe a door, maybe something else. You have aversion towards that object. So it's really funny. There's humor, there's irony in these things, how we react to these situations and people, even natural objects. We can really observe how this mind is working. This mind is always trying to have its way, and that is how it works. So in this practice, we don't try to change it. Instead, we try to notice what is happening. We try to notice, this is how it happens. We have aversion towards these things. This mind is reacting towards these things. So that's how you continue your practice. You don't try to remove those things from your mind. Instead, let them be. Try to observe what is happening. Try to become more and more aware. Now, by doing this simple activity, you have more insight towards your mind. You have identified more details, how the mind works. So that is important. That knowing is important. Earlier also these things happened, but you didn't notice. Now you are noticing, and that's a good progress that we have made. So again and again we observe how these things progress, how we react to these situations, how we react to these things. You continue to notice this way, continue to observe this way. Don't try to uproot these things. You can't do that. Instead, just by noticing them, you have power over them. You get control little by little. If you don't know, if you are ignorant, then there's no way to get rid of them. Just by knowing them, we get the upper hand, we get the power over these situations. And when you notice, you feel humor in your own actions or in your own reactions. Again and again you have to do and see how it is working. So even day-to-day activities, you can continue this way. You don't have to stop after uprooting the weed plants. You can continue. What is the next activity? How am I doing that? What is the activity after that? How am I pursuing that activity? Like that, you try to continue your practice. As long as you are awake, you can continue this way. Even sitting, walking, you support, and you go into your day-to-day life and try to face these situations much better. try to see how this mind is creating various excuses to or things, how it is reacting again and again, how sudden response. So you are again and again observing. By doing that act, you get more and more insight into your mind. That very knowing is important. That very knowing will help you to get rid of these things little by little. They will lose their power. If you try to uproot them, that won't work. You just know, you just identify, you just follow mind's ways and try to see how it works. That very knowing is what we are doing. By knowing again and again, you cut their power. You don't fool them too much as you used to. Now you know, and humor comes. This is how I react to these situations. This is how I react. And there's humor in those situations. So when you do that again and again, these things lose their power. You are not giving fuel as you used to do. And that is how you get rid of them. You don't try to push them away, instead let them be and don't give them their power. So continue this way, and even your sitting practice, when the breath is not there, now the object of mindfulness is not there, but you can continue with mindfulness. Earlier, your expectation was the object of mindfulness, which is the breath. When the breath disappears, it is a suggestion that you can continue without the object of mindfulness. So you just have your meditation as the mindfulness, the awareness, and various things will appear in this field of awareness and they will disappear. You are not attached to anything. You are not expecting anything. Instead, various things appear and they disappear. Even the breath appears in this field of awareness and it disappears after a while. The thoughts, sounds, they appear in the field of awareness and they disappear. So that is how you have to progress. Earlier we were getting the support of breath, but now the breath disappeared. Now you just have to continue with mindfulness. The object may change, but you can continue the mindfulness. That is how you have to progress. Don't try to go back to the breath. If it is not there, you can't anyway go. So try to continue with awareness. The objects may change, but you can maintain. That is becoming skillful in the practice. Earlier, you were taking breath as a refuge, as a safe house. But now you don't need that. You are strong. Now you can maintain mindfulness without that object. Various objects are there, but still you can maintain mindfulness. That is how you become skillful in the practice. So it is time for you to evolve into that phase. Try to practice again and again and share the experience with us.
Thank you, Bhante. I will read the second report now. Walking meditation. Watch sensations on soles of feet. After initially standing, noting weight of body on the feet and the difference in the weight in each foot. The hardness of the floor and heel. Softer sensation of toes compared to heel. Left, right, lifting, moving, placing observed. Thoughts came, proliferated for a short time, and mind went back to feet. Difference in temperature, feel of air on sole when lifting and between toes. Dust sticking on the foot felt. Walked for 1 hour. Sitting meditation. Watching breath, each breath noted more prominent in one nostril. The breath became shorter and then disappeared. When it reappeared, it was felt on one side as a thin, long breath, which then spread and merged with the air outside. After a short time, the breath felt not in front, but on one side of the face. There was a big empty space which spread. After some time, breath reappeared, very subtle on the other side, and disappeared. Few thoughts came, lasted a short time, and mind went back to breath. Meditated for 1 hour. Mindfulness when waking up. Before opening eyes, made a determination to stay mindful and watch what objects were taken by the mind. Felt the areas touching bed, cover, position of hands, areas touching clothes. Noted mind going to breath and expansion of abdomen and later the chest. Noted eyelids touching each other and sensation of teeth touching and position of tongue. Mind observed thoughts, watched them pass, not much proliferation. Observed stretching of arms and pressure of body when changing position in the bed. Got out of bed mindfully. Much gratitude for the guidance, Bhante, and to the organizers. End of the report.
Can you hear?
Bhante, yes, we can hear you, but it's breaking off. I think we seem to have lost Bhante for a while, so let's give him a couple of seconds. Maybe he can rejoin.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Bhante, we can.
Right. So the second report, as you mentioned, when you observe with mindfulness, you can see how the breath is changing. Various ways it is changing. Sometimes you...
I think we have lost Bhante again. Namanta, can you hear Bhante or has he dropped again?
No, Luciani, I cannot hear Bhante too. We will wait for Bhante to regain signal and continue.
Just for those who joined a bit later, just to let you know, Bhante is having a few issues today in Sri Lanka with the power cut and some issues with the internet. So he tends to drop out of the call, but he rejoins in a few seconds. So if you can bear with us. Also, it's a good time to notice what goes on in your mind when things don't go the way that we want. So it's a great way of, as we were discussing, to just observe the mind, see what arises in the mind. Again, don't try to judge it, but just be an observer and observe what arises. So we can do this now until Bhante joins. I think it is a great time also to notice, if any of you have noticed how impatient we can be. It's certainly something that I'm noticing in my mind. So it's just observing whatever arises in your mind. So let's continue to keep observing our mind whilst Bhante joins. Namanta, it appears like Bhante is taking a bit of time to join this time. So does it make sense for you to maybe take the participants through the meditation guidance document until Bhante joins, so we're using the time efficiently?
Yes, Luciani, we will do that. Good suggestion. Thank you for that. So I will share my screen and try to go through the guidance on meditation, mindfulness. We don't usually use the word meditation. We prefer to use the word mindfulness because meditation sticks too much to a framework of thinking, which we do not want to restrain ourselves to. So mindfulness is the right word always for us. And just to let you know that this is being streamed in Facebook today. We decided to stream these sessions from today onwards on Facebook. That is only on Satipasala web page on Facebook, nowhere else. So this will be viewed by those who are practicing mindfulness through Satipasala programs all throughout depending on their time zones and availability. And a recording, even for your reference in future, I think a recording of the video session will be available on the Satipasala web page. So that is just to let you know. The other thing, as Lushani mentioned, I will share the screen and go through the beginner's guide. Okay, so you can see here the instructions for a beginner to commence mindful practices. So first point, we have two videos, one on mindful walking, the other on mindful sitting. I will put these into the Zoom chat section, the links for the two videos. So you can go through each of these videos and gain a fair understanding of what are the basic instructions to follow in each of these sessions, what to observe, and what kind of sequence to follow through. Then the second important step would be for you to allocate a small time each day. For example, it could be 10 minutes or 15 minutes, or even spanning up to 1 hour if you are comfortable with the allocation of such time for one session of mindful walking. That is 10 minutes to 1 hour on one session. The first session we recommend is mindful walking, and then another 10 minutes to 1 hour of your choice of mindful sitting, spanning from either 10 minutes or to up to 1 hour, depends on your schedule. And then you can practice these kind of two sessions each day for a period of about 3-4 days until you feel comfortable if you're a beginner. And then you can submit a written report to this session where you write your observations in your own words as to how you commenced your walking, what were your first primary object of attention, whether it was the feet touching onto the floor, or whether it was a body movement or bodily sensations, or whether there were any thoughts disturbing you, and how your mind shifted from your thoughts to and reverted back to the focus on your body while doing this walking. And you can describe all this sequence of incidents in your own words and write the report on mindful walking. What happens when you write what you observe during a session is that it reinforces your own understanding of how you proceed through this mindful walking. So it is a very important practice, and if you haven't by any chance done this so far, even a expert person or a person who's experienced with this practice, then I would highly recommend doing this, because it, again, as I mentioned, it teaches you quite a bit of things about your own mindful practice when you put it into words in a written format. Then the same goes for the mindful sitting session. The object will be your breath moving in and out through your nostrils. It could be your abdomen movements like rising and falling abdomen, or it could be a body, any other vibrations like heartbeat, feelings from anywhere in the body, contact points with the floor. Also, it could be thoughts, and these could be happening not in a particular sequence. They could happen in as if they were happening at the same time. They might look as if they are happening at the same time. So it could be two sessions might not be similar because they can vary. They will vary. You can select one session which you feel more confident, that you feel more confident, that reflects most of your mindful practice, and then report to us. So select one of the sessions you prefer and write your report based on that, and you can send it to us. And apart from what is there in this shared image, you can also include some description about your daily practice of mindfulness, how you tend to see that you're mindful, how you tend to observe that, and how you come to the conclusion that you have been mindful during daily activities is another potential report that you can send to us. So you can include that as a third one, especially if you are not a beginner anymore, but if you are a person who has been practicing for a while now. So we will take those reports, submit for Bante's advice. We will read them out, and Bante will provide advice which will be useful to you, and also such advice will definitely be useful to all the other listeners as well. Then the methods or the means to send in those reports will be through the Google form or the email, which is beginnersnb@gmail.com. So with this, you can keep on practicing this way. You practice and send the report and gain advice, and we will present it to Bante for insightful advice from Bante. And this cycle will keep on improving your mindful practice all the way. So with that, the follow through on introduction to mindfulness does come to an end, but I do see that Bante is unable to connect. I'm sure he's trying his best to connect into the session. So let's be thankful to him for his hard work and endeavor in attending the session without trying to cancel it because of all these problems. So he must definitely be very kind towards Bante at this moment. Let's see what we can do. I think I will stop sharing the screen.
Thank you, Namanta. Yeah, it appears like Bante has still unable to join. Should we give it another few more minutes just to see if he can join, Namanta?
Yes, I think it's better if we just go for let's go for a 15-minute mindful walking session for all of our benefit, because this is allocated time from every person's schedule. So I respect, we all respect that. So let's use this time for productive use and go for a mindful walking session for every person. We will refer to the session again. Let's start with 15 minutes of mindful walking and then revert back to the session and see if Bante is available. So, yes.
Namanta?
Bante, Avasarai Bante.
Yes, I'm sorry we are having a bad day.
That's okay, Bante. What we did was, after reading the second report, we realized that we had lost you. So then Namanta took everyone through the instructions for the beginner's guide. And then after that, we said we will do some mindful walking practice until you join back. So that's what we have been doing so far. So I think we can now continue with the second report. Bante, do you want me to read it again, or did you hear what I read?
I heard most of it. So I was just telling that if we could continue like this in our sitting practice, we will see various forms and shapes of our breath, right? It appears inside, it goes outside, it becomes prominent, it becomes subtle. So all these variations are different shapes and forms of our breath, right? So it is okay to continue your practice. You are not chasing after them. Instead, you observe what comes, what appears. Sometimes there is this vast emptiness and you dissolve into it. Sometimes mind becomes agitated and a lot of thoughts, various things appear. So all these are different phases of the practice. So you can see how it is evolving, how it is changing. So this is how we have to progress. You don't expect anything. You don't try to go after anything. Instead, you are continuing with the flow. Going with the flow, we say, right? So in the meditation, you can really feel now you have no control. Now there's this natural process is there, and you are dissolved into that natural process. If you want to do something, then think about it as self or the ego that wants to do anything. If you refrain from doing, then this natural evolution, natural process is continuing. That is the rhythm of the nature. We just have to plug into it. We just have to know the art of going with the flow. So in the meditation, you can really feel it, especially in the sitting session, you can really feel that there is no doer, there is no self. Instead, this natural process is there. As long as you are with that process, you are peaceful. If you try to do something, then there's friction. Then there's stress, agitation, right? So in this practice, we really get the rhythm of the nature and we plug into that nature. And when we are there, we are peaceful. We don't identify, we don't recognize as these objects as ourselves. We don't recognize this flow as ourselves. Instead, it's something in the nature, like a flow of a river. It goes downhill. That is how it flows. So this process is also the similar. You just have to be with that process. You just have to accept whatever comes in your way and just make peace with it. That is the true practice. And initially you experience this in the sitting, but when you develop little by little, you can even feel even your day-to-day life, you are just continuing your task. You are just doing for the sake of doing. There's no real doer. There is no real self involved. So that is the way. When there is no self, when there is no doer, you are with the natural nature. You are with that natural rhythm. So we just try to plug into that rhythm. And when we do, there's no friction. It's only peaceful, calm nature that's there. So you just have to continue. And with time, you realize even the day-to-day activities, they are not more like doing. Instead, they are just happening. You just become a part of it. You just do for the sake of doing, and they are just happening. And whatever happens, happens for a reason, and you can see that, right? So only thing you have to practice, only thing you have to continue this practice. Try and see how these various things are happening in your day-to-day life. Once in a while, there's this urgency to do something. There's this urgency to reject something. But again and again, we try to embrace what is happening. Again and again, we are just doing. So at the end, you are doing your task just for the sake of doing. You are sitting just for the sake of sitting. You are walking just for the sake of walking. There's no real goal or real target. Instead, you sit for the sake of sitting. You walk for the sake of walking. You do your day-to-day activities for the sake of doing them. And that is where you can really, that is when you can really find peace in your mind. So initially, even the practice, we have some goal. We want to become enlightened. We want this, we want that. So these goals are there. But more you practice, lesser and lesser the goals, the targets will be. And with time, you realize you are just walking for the sake of walking. You are sitting for the sake of sitting. And you are doing these activities for the sake of doing it. And then you are ready to accept Nibbana. Then you are ready to accept this blissful nature that is within you. So try to see how it is evolving. Try to see how little by little there is no goal by doing this sitting session. There's no real target. You just sit for a while. You just be the part of nature and just continue with that. You just walk for a while. You just be a part of nature and continue with that. You do your day-to-day activities for the sake of doing, and you are just part of that. And when you have, now your practice is ready to evolve into the next phase, which is blissful nature, the peace within mind, right? So at the end, even the practice, there's no real goal. There's no real target. Instead, you are doing for the sake of doing. If there's a target, if there's a goal, then of course there is craving behind that. Because you have some target, you have some attainment that you want to achieve, right? If you want to achieve something, then of course there's craving behind that. So when there's no goal, when there's no target, you are sitting for the sake of sitting, you are walking for the sake of walking, you are doing your day-to-day activities for the sake of doing them. And that is when you are ready to accept the real peace. So continue to see how your practice is evolving, and you can share with the group. It will be beneficial for everybody.
Thank you, Bhante, for your profound advice and guidance. So with that, I can see now this is the Q&A session. So I can see Panchani has raised her hand. Panchani, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Avasarai Bhante, I just wanted to ask if I have questions about my own practice, is that my own ego talking? Because I remember you mentioned once that if you are actually practicing properly, you shouldn't really have questions about your practice. But sometimes I get curious about certain things that happen in my deep meditation, and I want confirmation from a teacher. If you can explain that, Bhante, please.
Yes, now initially you need some guidance, right? To start this practice, you need some guidance. You have to have the proper instructions. If you get wrong instructions, then there's no point of practicing. Maybe you can put in hours and hours, but there is no real benefit, right? So some information, some guidance is needed. And even this discussion we are doing as a guidance towards our practice. It's a help for our practice. Not only you, but I am also learning by just participating in this discussion, adding my views. hearing to your comments, I am also learning. My practice is also evolving due to the discussion, right? So that's how we progress. But when we progress more and more, if you listen to earlier reports, they are just sharing experience. They don't really have questions. Instead, they are sharing their experience. And that is how we do. Right? It is natural that you are curious about the things that you face during your practice and you want some explanation. It is natural. But when you progress little by little, you realize whatever comes, it was it. There's nothing more to explain. So even this sense story is there. A student comes to the teacher and he's asking, I experienced something in meditation. What was it? Right? He is asking the teacher. And teacher was saying it was it. You don't have to think beyond that. Just let go and go to the next moment. The experience was experience. It was it. And you just continue your practice. Right? So it is natural that we get doubts. We get questions. It is natural. We want some explanation. It is natural. But more you progress in your practice, you realize whatever comes, they just go. Whatever come into being, they shall pass, right? You don't have really need to spend time trying to find explanations. Instead, you let go and be with the next moment. The doubts, questions, we don't encourage. If you start encouraging them, there won't be end to it. So just try to doubt the doubt, question the question. And when you do that, you realize that this is just a thought that is appearing in my mind. This is just a thought that is appearing as a doubt. So you just see through that question. You just see through that doubt. If you start trying to find answers for each and every question, then there won't be end to it. So even a few days back, there was this foreigner who came from Ukraine and he was meditating. He did Goenka before and he started meditating here and he wanted to know. He had a lot of questions. So I was also encouraging questions for a few days. I was also answering, giving all the colorful answers. Then he was very happy. Then for the third time he came and he was having a list of questions. Then I said, you can't get rid of questions by answering them. You can't get rid of questions by answering them. Instead, we try to destroy the root of the questions, destroy the root of the doubts. That is the craving. Because of that, all these questions, doubts arise, fear arise, anger arise. So little by little, when we progress into our practice, we have our own confidence in the practice. We know that we are practicing. And there's this need for explanations. There's this need to question. There's this need to doubt. But you progress little by little and you let go of the questions, you let go of the doubts, but you can share your experience. You can share your experience. There's no real question, but you are sharing. This is what I experienced and I would like to present it to the group. And that way we are approving. We encourage that. We encourage all of you to practice. We encourage all of you to share your experience. By sharing, in a way, we get our own answers. And also the group is learning. So in a way, we are sharing experience. We are encouraging that. But we don't encourage questions. We don't encourage doubts. Because if you do that, there's no end to it. So you just have to try and see what is the root of these questions? What is the root of these doubts? That's the real question you have to ask. That's the real doubt you have to have. So when you progress, you can see little by little how the questions are disappearing, how the doubts are disappearing. Instead, I'm just there for the sake of doing it. I walk for the sake of walking. I sit for the sake of sitting. I do my day-to-day activities for the sake of doing them. And if I share with the group, of course, it is beneficial for me and as well as for the group.
Bhante, in my reflection report, I did put some questions. Perhaps you should ignore them. I don't think you read it today.
Do you have another report?
I sent it a bit late, so probably will be next week.
Okay, that's fine. We'll see what are the questions. We can give some answers. Not to worry.
Thank you, Bhante Panchani. Thank you. Do you have any questions you want to ask at this point? There's anything you want to ask? I can see there isn't. Anyone else has any questions you want to put to Bhante? Otherwise, we'll move on. Excellent. So thank you, Bhante, for your valuable guidance and advice as always. I will hand it back over to Namanta. Namanta, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rishani, for conducting the Q&A session, and much merits to Bhante for endeavoring and coming back into the session in this manner. We appreciate this. Now we have finished up on the beginner's introduction, and it is almost time. I would let Bhante decide whether we continue with the talk or whether we wrap up for today.
Okay, Namanta, I think I can take about 10 to 15 minutes having a small discussion regarding the practice. So today we had a lot of trouble with the connection, and you can see when such things happen, there's usually aversion in my mind, right? So I was also noticing how it is happening, and I could feel this aversion created in my mind, right? It wants to blame somebody. It wants to blame the connection. It wants to blame the power supply. So that's how it works. So when these things happen, you can really see how you are reacting to them. How little things annoy you, you can notice. Even one of you shared that while doing your day-to-day activities, you could feel that there's this aversion towards wheat plants. When you can pull them out easily, you are happy. When you can't, you have aversion towards that. So that is how our mind works. It is always trying to blame somebody. It wants to put blame, probably on outside things or probably on outside people. It is always trying to put blame. So when we are mindful, we start to notice. We start to know that now this is how I react. There's this aversion towards these little things. They are not big things. There's no real reason behind them. But that's our reaction. So we try to observe that in our practice. We try to see how it is happening again and again. So that is called developing insight towards your mind. You go deeper and deeper and notice how this process is happening. So when these difficult situations come, you can really be mindful and see how there's aversion in your mind. Sometimes there's pleasure, sometimes there's pain, sometimes there is sadness. So due to these little things, these things are appearing again and again. Now there's this Zen story. There's this Zen story about two disciples. They were traveling and they saw a flag which was waving in the wind. So one person, he pointed to the flag and he said, that flag is waving. It is moving due to the wind, right? So he pointed, he said, that flag is moving. Then the other person said, no, it's not the flag that is moving. It's the wind that is moving. So one person is saying it's the flag. Then the other person is saying it is the wind that is moving. Then they were arguing. They couldn't come to a conclusion. Then their teacher came, met them, and heard their argument. And he said, it's neither the flag nor the wind that is moving. It's your mind that is moving. So usually when we see things, we want to put blame into outside people, outside things. But the real problem is within. Real problem is inside us. Real problem is in our mind. So in this practice, instead of moving our attention towards outside people, things, we try to move our attention inwards. We try to see how these little things create aversion in our mind. How these little things bother us. We try to notice. So this practice you can really use when you are at work, when you work with your friends, when you work with your family. You can see how these little things create aversion in your mind. How these little things keep bothering you. So try to notice. Don't try to get rid of it. Just be the observer. Just notice. Okay, this is how it happened. This was my reasoning. And this is why I got angry. So that noticing process is very important. If you try to get rid of them, that is not the proper way. Instead, you just be the observer. Instead, you try to find more and more ways of this mind. By just knowing, by just becoming aware, you gain the control. If you don't know, then these processes, in your mind, they get the power. That is why another person is saying about their own mind. They don't know that real movement is within us. So when we are mindful, instead of moving our attention towards the outside, we try to move our attention towards our inside. We see how we are reacting to these situations, how these little things are bothering us. So even when you work at your home, maybe you have to do certain tasks. You have to feed children. You have to wash dishes. So we can see housewife doing dishes. Now her idea is to clean these dishes, remove the dirt. That is her idea. But she is doing this task with a sour face. Maybe she is not happy about something. Maybe she is angry about something. Although she is cleaning the dishes, her mind is not happy. There's dirt in her mind. So she's trying to clean the dishes, while something else that is more closer to her is with dirt, which is her own mind. Maybe she is making noises. Maybe she is throwing plates, because she has this dirt in her mind. So we try to clean things in the outside, but we don't know there's dirt inside us. So in this practice, we try to notice these things. We try to notice that there is this anger in my mind. Due to that anger, I am reacting this way. I find fault in everybody that I see. There's this sadness in my mind. Due to that sadness, everything appears sad to me. There's happiness in my mind. And due to that happiness, everything appears blissful in the outside. So when you care about this real problem, which is not outside but inside, the problem is the movement of this mind. When objects come into your mind moved. And due to that movement, you have this trouble. So in this practice, when you start to notice this movement, then you start to notice how this mind is moving due to various mind objects. Then that is the way to get rid of this movement. That is the way to get rid of this mind that is moving. So instead of going with that movement, you just become the observer. You just let it move and try to notice. When there is peace in your mind, when it is calm, you're happy. But when it is agitated, you don't like it. But both these situations are natural to your mind. So usually we accept the calm, peaceful mind. We want to get rid of that agitation. But the practitioner try to keep a similar kind of attitude towards both these situations. When the mind is peaceful, fine. When the mind is not peaceful, that also you have to somehow accept. So by doing this practice again and again, we just naturally. And by doing that in your mind, usually this movement is even higher than the movement in the outside. Sometimes you think that something will happen and you worry over it. Again and again you think that this will happen and you worry. But when it comes to real situation, it is not that difficult. So your mind is creating this trouble. It is worrying over nothing. Even the real situation is better than the situation that you develop in your mind. So your mind is moving even more than the outside. Instead of encouraging this movement, we try to be the observer from this movement. By doing that, you can see, although the objects are there, you are not moved. You don't worry over these situations too much. You can feel that your mind is a little bit separated from this process that is going on. And when you have the distance, when you have that gap, that is where real peace is coming. When you have that distance in your mind, then you can see, although the various things are happening, although the various people are saying various things, you can still be peaceful because you are not moved by these objects. So that is how you have to attain real peace in your mind. So continue your practice, continue to share your experience, and we can develop as a group. When you practice again and again, you develop this kind of a vibration, which is a good vibration, and you can continue. That is helping. And if you practice as a group, then you can feel that there's this vibration even among the discussion, even in the group. So that is how we have to progress. We start little by little, but when we get the momentum into the practice, you can see that practice is evolving, it is continuing, and it's helping you. So we invite all of you to practice, and if you share your experience, and that will be helpful for the group as well. And that's it for the day. And I wish you a mindful week. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Bhante, for that excellent talk. After all the rush and disturbances that we went through in today's session, and I think Bhante's talk very well summarized or summed up all the experience that we actually got to go through in today's session. So much merits to Bhante. And for anyone who has not seen, I have put in the web links for the mindful walking and mindful sitting session links. The YouTube links are there in the Zoom chat section if you want to copy them off. Now, with that, I would like to sum up today's session. I would like to thank and share merits with Venerable Bhante Homagama Dhamma Kusala Thero for representing Nissarana Vanaya Forest Monastery and joining us today on this program for this session, especially with severe signal and power related issues. And then I would also like to recall and thank and share merits with the most venerable Bhante Udairegama Dhammajiva Thero for his insightful request to commence and sustain this program and for his commitment to same purpose. And also I would like to thank all the organizers who initiated this program out of their kindness and effort, and who are still working to sustain this program throughout. Then I would also like to thank all the attendees and all the organizers who participated in today's session for your valued participation as an input to this program. Then I would like to give 1 or 2 minutes for anyone who has a question or a suggestion about the program. You can raise a Zoom hand and I will allow time to speak up. I think there's no one. So I would like to yes, I think I would like to end up today's session, and there are some messages in the chat section thanking everyone. Much appreciation to be shared with you all as on behalf of organizers for your kind feedback. We feel much encouraged, and yes, despite whatever issues that come up, we will try to sustain the program sessions and do all the endeavor we can. Because any obstacle that comes our way is again a teacher to improve mindfulness. So we will take note of that and try to sustain the session throughout, despite any difficulties. Okay, I think we can wrap up today's session. I will not go through the announcements for today. We will have the same session tomorrow, next week, Saturday at the same time. And I would especially like to thank all those who have remained throughout. Some may have logged out, but some remained. I would like to thank everyone who logged out in the middle, and those who stayed till the very end and got the experience of a abnormal or not so normal signal related issue driven session today. So hope to see you next week. I will end this meeting. Wish you all a happy and mindful week ahead. Thank you. And much merits again to Bhante for such persistence and endeavor to keep the session going. Thank you. And also I should thank Lushani for the excellent help throughout. Thank you, Lushani. I will end the session now.